Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. A little something different today. I know I say that a lot, but it's been a lot of different this year, which is good. Justin Stone from the 207 Collective podcast has reached out to me and Flippin Customize and asked if he could come over and film a podcast. So today, well, we're going to sit down with him and do a podcast. I have no idea what to expect or how it's going to go. I'm not even up on the podcasting that well. But I'm going to put the camera on him, and we're going to record it as a YouTube video as well to put it on the channel and show all of you. So he'll be here any minute. Let's do it. All right, guys. This is Justin right here.
How's it going?
So tell us a little bit about your podcast. Well, I get the camera on you.
So I'm Justin. I host the 207 Collective. It's a podcast basically about business owners, entrepreneurs, people that just basically do cool stuff in their life, and mostly around the southern Maine area. I've done some guys from New Hampshire, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And Scott, obviously here with Flippin Customize, has been doing some pretty cool stuff. So we're gonna sit down and have a little chat about it.
Perfect. All right, without further ado, let's dive into it.
Welcome to the 207 Collective. I'm Justin. And today we are hanging out at Flippin Customize with Scott. How's it going?
How's it going, man? Appreciate you guys coming out here to the shop.
Yeah, I like to do the little mobile once in a while on scene. Yeah, I'm doing quite a bit at my place as far as refurbishing my basement to make it a little more.
I see that. I've been seeing the photos and stuff. It looks cool.
Yeah, and I'm not a carpenter at all. Like,
Neither am I.
I could weld, I could machine, I could do all that stuff, but you
Yep.
ask me to build you a birdhouse, you're out of luck.
Not happening.
And so pretty much, I told my wife I was gonna do that, and I knocked it out in like 2 days. I did the whole thing, and she came downstairs. She's like, "Huh?" She's like, "I need something done around the house. You know, it just never happens, but you needed it done," and bam, it got done. Well, you know, priorities.
Yep. Hey, it works.
So Scott, you are the owner of Flippin Customized.
I am.
And
The one and only.
Yeah, the one and only. No, it's pretty cool that there's somebody around here doing, I mean, I don't really know. I know of like hunting YouTube channels. I don't know anybody that's really doing the kind of stuff that you're doing.
Right. There's a
So-
lot of guys out there, even locally to me, that do the car shows.
Right.
They'll record car shows. There's a few guys on YouTube that do that. But and I used to do more of that, and I kind of faded back off of that because there was so many other guys that are at the car show you're at, and then they're recording it, and that night theirs is posted, and I'm not posting mine for a week.
Right.
So I didn't want. It's not that it was. I mean, it is competition, but at the same time, it was no. That doesn't excite me as much as doing this, just the randomness that we do here.
Right. So before all this craziness, before Flippin Customized, before what was young Scott like? What were you into as a kid? I mean, obviously you had to be
always into mechanical dirt bikes, go-karts. I remember my grandfather brought home, he used to work on forklifts, Heister forklifts for a living, and he got me my first wrenching job on forklifts. And he brought home a go-kart, that beat up old go-kart, and that was like my first mechanical thing, and started hopping it up and figured out how to bypass the governor on it and get it to go faster. And then I remember when I turned 11, he came home, 11 years old. He came home with an XR80 dirt bike, and that was it. I just going into the dirt bike scene heavy and into motocross. It just snowballed from there, and my mom was upset and stuff because, well, you're gonna hurt yourself, which I did. But you know, off to the motocross scene and just all outlaw tracks and stuff like that. But I had a blast doing that right up till I was 18, 19 years old. So
yeah, I mean, we did a lot of the same stuff. We wanted a pedal bike. My father would come home with 3 or 4 of them from the dump, and then we would put them together and make a pedal bike out of that.
We spent hours on our bicycles just because you could just rip around on the street. It was, I don't want to say dating myself, but it just seemed safer. Like you'd leave the house in the summer, and my mom didn't have to know like exactly where we were because we would be within yelling distance. When you could hear my mom piping off,
right?
Oh, it's time for dinner. You gotta go back.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to see how it is nowadays with the way kids interact and how they do things. Because I mean, we were outside, all the time.
All the time.
That's all we did. And I mean, whether it was just out in the woods pushing over trees, building forts. We tried to build a raft one time, and
Not quite so good.
no, it didn't. It didn't really go as perfectly as we all planned and thought that it was gonna go.
Yeah.
But and we probably shouldn't have done it in like November.
Oof.
Yeah. But that was fun. But I mean, it was then the same thing like you said, like dirt bikes. You know, we got into the dirt bikes, then we got into the four wheelers.
Oh yeah.
And then once we were not old enough to drive, but we were driving cars, not on the road. But Jason Danny's Auto Salvage was right down the road from where my parents lived.
Sure.
And we would go and we'd pay him $50 to $75, pick a car. At night, we would run it back to my parents' house. And for the weekend, we would just thrash it through the woods.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
then we would call him Sunday or Monday or whenever the car was, done. And then he would come back, pick it up, and then tow it back and bring it back to his junkyard.
That's awesome.
So we wrecked a ton of them.
That's awesome.
And yeah, too bad YouTube wasn't around, wasn't a thing back then.
That'd be gold today, right?
Yeah.
That situation would be gold.
Yeah, and then, there was a lot of, we're big on the racing scene. I raced at Beach Ridge for a lot of years. A lot of my friends did it. Yeah, the Days of Destruction. I mean, there was a ton of stuff.
We used to do that, the Days of Destruction. That was a good time.
Yeah.
I got pretty rowdy.
Yeah, that did, and then like they had Car Wars. Did you ever go to that?
I didn't. I entered a Day of Destruction a few times with some junk cars and stuff, but never. I haven't been to Car Wars. Didn't go to that.
Yeah,
Of course, the
Car
track's
Wars.
gone now. But
Yeah, Car Wars was insane.
no kidding.
Yeah, like you'd be looking around and you would just see the type of people that were there. And you're like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, it was some fun stuff. But so you were obviously mechanical and all that. So you're obviously a welder, fabricator, powder coater. When did you learn how to weld?
So I went to college for automotive technology right here. My son's going to the same school, Southern Maine Tech. So he's going for automotive right now as well. And that's what I did. And before that, this is before college, I would play around with a MIG welder, a beat up old one that my dad, when it had gas in it, would work, and do a little bit of this and that, nothing great. And then in college, we had to take a welding course. And then it was just like I was hooked. So ever since then, I've always been around or wanted to do welding. Not as, so to speak, a career.
Right.
It's not all I do. And that's the thing that's cool about, I guess, Flippin' Customize and what we do here. I do a lot of everything. So it sounds cool, but it's very, very hard to niche into something like on YouTube when I'm posting a powder coating video and then I'm putting a lift kit in a truck and then we're wrecking a car out in the driveway, or we're doing, it could be, I'm all over the map depending on what's going on.
That's kind of one of the things that I like about your channel is there is such a wide variety of everything on there. It's not just, planned out, this is what we're doing next, this is what we're doing, this is what we're gonna go do.
Right.
It's, you're powder coating some wheels, then you're doing, some stuff that's actually helping people as far as, installs on like,
Sure.
how to install certain like headlights on a Jeep or,
Right.
Something like that. Like I noticed some of like the most views you have on videos
We're the how-tos.
were the how-to videos.
Yep.
And so it's kind of cool, and because I coded for a while and I just got out of it.
Right.
And I remember going through and flipping through, searching something on YouTube, like trying to figure out something that was going wrong with what I was doing. And some of your videos were popping up.
Right.
I didn't make the connection at the time that, who you were and that you were, not far from where
Local.
I was.
Right, local.
And then, yeah, I started following you, and then, you're pretty good about keeping up on the content, like posting, staying relevant, posting something every day.
And it is a grind.
Yeah.
And as you know, it's a grind.
Yeah.
You have to have content basically every day on every platform that you're on.
Yeah.
And for me, it's YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Yeah.
And which I've kind of faded off of the TikTok thing.
Never
but
got into it.
I'm still on there, and I had a decent following, so I still put it on there. But it's 4 platforms that you're posting to every day. It's a lot, but it's necessary today.
Joe Rogan scared me about TikTok.
Right?
So yeah, I don't know. I have one. I posted some coding videos and some sandblasting videos on there, and it's wild. Like, you put something on there, and how many views, how quick it gets, and then it just shuts off.
And then it shuts off. Yep.
And then it's done.
It's all an algorithm thing, and to know the secret would be great because I don't. And my TikTok channel years ago my videos would get huge numbers. When I first finished our shop truck, the Rat Rod truck out there, we did a lot with that truck, and it just blew up on social media, on TikTok. But ever since then, that was a couple of years ago, now I post videos and they'll spike up to 300, 400, 500, 600 views and then flatline.
Right.
And I've talked to some other guys that are in that same era I was when it first peaked, and they're having this.
And he said one of the things, like, when people are always like, share this, share that, like, it's for a reason. It's not just because you want to get more exposure, but the more it gets shared, the higher in the algorithm that it's going to be.
Yep.
So
It's
then
so true.
you're going to start to get more views, more likes on it, more people obviously getting exposed to it. But so help some people out, share some stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I'm glad you say that, because that's a fine line. So I have my business Facebook page, just talking about that, and then we have my personal Facebook page, and I'll post a lot of business stuff on my personal page, but it's to drive people over to the business page. And every time we make a YouTube video, we'll post a link on both of them and stuff. And you hate to flood your personal page too much with the business and YouTube stuff, but at the same time, a lot of people don't realize how much that means if they click on it and watch your video, or send it to someone else, or they share your post, or he's making these end tables or whatever he's doing in the shop today, and they share your content. That goes, like you said, a long, huge, that's massive, and it doesn't cost anything for people to do that.
Right.
Which is huge.
So I notice, like, even when I have guests on, I'll just ask them, I'm going to tag you in the post and all that, but I'm like, if you could share this,
Absolutely.
like that, you could see a dramatic increase as far as numbers.
Absolutely.
And downloads and that kind of thing. So yeah, like Scott said, it doesn't take much to do it.
It doesn't. To watch a video, or to share your another small business or another creator's content, even if you're a creator or a small business. I mean, there's enough work out there for everybody to go around. We don't need to be stealing each other's, or
right.
Shit talking somebody. We don't.
Yeah. Well, that's like when people ask me about powder coating when I was doing it, and they're like, "Oh, you busy?" I'm like, "I'm so busy," and they're like, "Well, why is there so much work?" I'm like, "There's not a lot of people around that are doing it."
Sure.
I mean, I'm convinced that there could be 4 or 5 guys within a 10, 15 mile radius of each other that all did it, and everyone would still have plenty of work to do.
Yep.
So there was no, like I said, I got started, because of Luke,
Sure.
and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'd rather have you have the business because, stay away from the bigger guys." And I'm like, he's not a big guy.
Luke isn't. Yeah, he started like in his garage, just like us.
Right. I'm like, he's not any different.
He's a normal dude. Yep.
Yeah, he's just more successful at it, and that's what he does full time.
Yep, and he's awesome.
And I had that, people would ask me all the time, "When are you going to go full time coding?" And I'm like, I could have, I think, with a little bit more money and, some more equipment, some better, bigger equipment, bigger oven, that kind of thing, definitely could have done it. But it wasn't there for me, as far as passion wise.
Right.
I like doing it.
And it has to be.
And that part wasn't there.
Yeah. I get it.
So when did you decide that you were going to go and start doing YouTube? Not full time, but to the point where you're at now.
Yeah, so it was about the same time that, I believe, right around 2018, I'm guessing, 17, 18. I had to go back and look at some of the really old content. And I actually changed the name a couple of times. I think my channel originally was called Redneck Garage Guys or something like that, because I was trying to use that redneck thing, and then kind of tailored away from that. It was only a couple videos on there. I don't even know if it's still there. I think it just transferred over to Flippin Customized. But it was 2018, 2019. I started the business officially, and that's when we started up at the house garage, working in there and starting to do some how-to videos and some of the projects, the S10 build, one of the S10 builds that's still not done, it's up there. And that was in some of the early videos, which is shameful, it's still not done, but it isn't. So, and then it just kind of snowballed. So then same thing, I started getting into the powder coating. The first thing I did was a little metric bobber I was building. So same motorcycle parts, powder coating it. Eastwood, little cheap Eastwood gun and a home oven, and started that way. And it just kind of, I graduated from there, and I bought a newer oven, our new oven, obviously bigger, a real powder coat oven, and then kept doing the YouTube videos, and then it was taking off, and I'm like, well, I ended up adding a bay onto the garage, because I'm like, well, at least now I can call that the bay for the business, instead of, hey, my wife, I'm bringing my car in tonight, so get your stuff out of here, pack it up. So, and then so we've been in this building not quite 2 years now, so around 22, 22, I was like, well, it's been getting busier, so do I either gonna take the next step and try to gear and get towards that full-time level, or pare it back, because the whole juggling and working 2 jobs, having another job, it's a challenge. So I took the leap and still working 2 jobs. However, built the separate building that we're in now here, and it was I'm super happy that I did it. So I'm going in the right direction now to get to that full-time level, and hopefully we get there. So.
No, that's awesome. Like I said, it's cool to see a local guy, to see some of the numbers. Do you know right off the top of your head, like, as far as total downloads that you've had?
I don't. I don't.
Do you not pay attention to it, or is
not? So there's a big thing with YouTube, is you should really be digesting and diving into the stats, the statistics,
the analytics of it?
Yeah. And it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And I try different things, and I should do that more than I do, but it's hundreds of videos. Yeah, hundreds.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with the podcasting. I can go on my hosting site, and then I could see everything. I could see what country it was played in. I could see the towns that it was played in.
You can do that on YouTube too.
Yeah, and then I could actually break it down, and I could start to see like how long somebody listened to it and they dropped off.
Right.
So then you start looking for trends. You know,
where did they drop?
Where did they drop? Why did 15 people only listen for 3 minutes? And then it's not, if it's on one video, that's fine, because maybe they didn't care for the guest that was on, or it was just not what they were into. But
sure. If
that's happening consecutively, then you need to try to figure out what's happening, what's going on with that.
Very much like YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep. You see where people are clicking on it or not clicking on it, and a huge thing with YouTube is the thumbnail.
Thumbnails are very
huge.
Important.
And I finally found through more YouTubers that I talk to and follow, and they're a lot bigger than I am on Instagram, have Flying Sparks Garage, Emily and her husband, that they have a very successful YouTube channel, and at least I consider it hundreds of thousands of subscribers, very successful. And so they were nice enough to kind of coach me through a few different things and techniques that I should be doing, as well as, hey, check this guy out for helping you with creating thumbnails. So the past month now, I've got somebody making my thumbnails. That you pay him, but reasonably priced, and the thumbnails are so much better than what I would do. So
yeah.
Will it work, or do you get a return on that investment? I think so, long term, and it just looks better. So
yeah, it was the same when I started posting episodes. It was literally just the episode and the title, and then I realized that I could start using I was just using the default whatever I had for a background photo for the 207 Collective, and then I'm like, wait, I could start putting in people's pictures of what they're doing.
Sure.
And then once I started doing that, I noticed a bigger jump, because I could, when I load that, share it, people are seeing the person. Like I just had Zach Plant on last 2 weeks ago, and he was on Wicked Tuna from Sanford.
Yep.
And so he sent me a really cool picture of him, with a tuna down in chest in the freezer of the boat or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's a sick photo. And
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah.
It was really dark.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I shared that one, and it's not that I didn't think his podcast was going to do well because, you know, he's a well-known person. And it did really well. It did. I don't know if it's like you and like YouTube videos, you get surprised sometimes.
You do.
Like the ones that you think are like, yeah, this is not really going to do anything. And
Spikes.
then all of a sudden it's huge and then you have a ton of downloads.
And then I'll work on a video that I'm just like, you put a ton of time into it and you're like, this is good. And it's like no views. So that's frustrating.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, it's just, then I also found that when I first started, I was constantly looking at numbers. Constantly. Over and over. Like, I'd be at work and it would be on my background and like, I'd be refreshing the screen like on days that I downloaded like an episode. I'm like, I gotta stop doing this shit because I'm gonna drive myself
Nuts.
crazy doing it. So builds. I'm gonna tell you my favorite one. It's that on a dime S10 sitting there.
Yep.
My first vehicle ever was an '89 Chevy S10 that I bought from Jay Daney, who my father bought for $700. I don't even think the exhaust was cool yet before we had the front springs chopped out of it and 4-inch lowering blocks on the back of it.
Yep.
And I mean, the truck was a pile. It wasn't anything special at all. Little Fortec 5-speed. And yeah, just growing up, it was either the biggest car I could find. I was always either in Chevy Caprices.
Oh,
I had a Pontiac Grigien, an Olds 98. I can go on. I had a ton of them. Or it was a square body S10.
Yeah.
I had a couple of the round style like later on, but
Yep. 90, like late. I had a 98.
94, 90.
94. Okay.
Yeah, that's when well, 93 and 94. I think 94 there might have been like a half year.
94. Yeah, because that's a 93.
The
and
93,
that's the last of the square.
93 is the last year of the square body ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like anything. Back in the day, if you told me that a square body S10 was going to cost you $6,000, that's in mediocre shape.
Right.
You know, it's like trying to find a square body.
They were a dime a dozen, like the square bodies. And boy, I tell you, when you use the term square body with an S10, some people don't like that. These square body guys, I've been corrected more than once, and I've got a couple posts about that. I'm like, well, I consider this a square body.
It is a square body.
It's a square body. It's just a smaller square body truck. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Yeah, they
but-
could be upset at me for it because.
Yep. And that was the first truck I built, was an 88 Chevy S10. It was a 4-cylinder, 5-speed, long bed. Yeah, that was all I could get my hands on, and it was my first decent truck, and that was back in, so I was 17 years old, you know, high school, and then I didn't have that truck a year, and my brother-in-law, who's a mechanic and was gearhead and into engines and modifications and stuff, and we had already built a 350 for it, and we were in my dad's garage. We were doing a V8 swap in my S10 at 17 years old, so
Yep.
you can imagine how that went.
Yeah, I've been there. My brother had same thing actually. His was an '87 or '88 long box, but we put a 305 in it,
Yeah.
and it went good. It was fun. And then he ended up with a '93 that had a pretty healthy 350 in it, and then he completely floor-linked it,
Oh wow.
like off magazines because we didn't have YouTube or any of that stuff.
Yeah, right.
And
Old school.
Yeah, he was into circle track racing too, so he had some buddies, you know, helping him out. And he completely built the 4-link. It was a nice blue, like the color of your Miller welder there.
Sure.
It was that color. And said he was probably 17, 18, so he was driving that to, it had a rock crusher in it. So he was driving that to high school, and like that was the rig.
The
like,
truck, I'm
yeah.
sure.
And I mean, that thing turned on. It was, well, I say it now, like you look back at it now, like if you had something back then that made 300 horsepower,
That was a crazy amount of horsepower.
that was insane.
With this LS world, that's nothing now. And all the modern muscle, it's just 300 horsepower, oh, big deal. My 4-cylinder gets that. My
Yeah.
EcoBoost, or whatever that is, so.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what that thing did. We obviously never dynoed it. There wasn't any of that going
No.
on back then, but it was quite the rig. And then he took it off the road for a little bit, and it was sitting on the side of my parents' house because we were getting ready to move, and they were redoing the septic, and it was parked there. So they're like, hey, you gotta move your truck. So we moved it, And one of the dump trucks was pulling off of Route 4 into our yard while some older man in a Cadillac wasn't paying attention and didn't realize the dump truck was stopping. And last second realized it over our lawn, and my brother just happened to look outside and just watched his truck get T-boned.
Oh, man.
And I mean, I remember seeing like the utter look of like despair on his face. It was his baby. I mean, he had so many hours into that thing.
Yeah, memories too, I'm
and
sure.
it just got destroyed. And then he ended up with another one that he bought from a friend that was already small blocked and already 4-linked. And then we messed around with that for a couple of years. He did spectator drags with it.
Sure.
He did it with his blue one too, and he won it. And that truck had donuts all down the side of it so
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty wild. And then yeah, some motor swaps and all that kind of stuff. We were doing that real young.
Sure.
We were doing it and everything. I mean, but yeah, the S10s will always have a special place in my heart.
It's still definitely one of my favorite trucks. The older, I mean, I like the newer stuff too, newer 90s, but the square body stuff, and I have that 93 on our project on a dime out there, and then the other one we're building is a 91. The body's sitting on a rack out there, but the rolling chassis is up at the house, and that's an LS swap.
Yeah.
It's got a lot more work done to it, you know. It's not as much of a driver as this one here, but just got to finish it someday. That it doesn't pay the bills though. That cost me money.
No, I took a little dive into the LS world last year. No, it's probably 3 years now since that car's been on the road. I got an 81 Malibu wagon that me and Dan at Dead Ricks.
Yeah.
We LS swapped it, but we carbed it.
Yep.
Because Dan hadn't done a carbed LS yet.
Sure.
So we kind of wanted to see how that was going to go. And me and Ben Connolly spent a ton of time on it. And it went good for about 2 months. And then I decided to melt like 3 cam bearings to the cam one night. And then that was the end of that. So it's just been kind of sitting out back. And then.
Oh, you still have it?
Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
No, it's going to see the road again this year.
Sure. Perfect.
So I got another LS for it. But yeah, nothing crazy. Just.
Yeah, those some good dudes. Dan over there at Dead Ricks. Yeah, I've been there a few times. And one of the S10s we built on the YouTube channel is a 98 S10.
I couldn't remember that. Yeah, that made a lot of gains too.
So huge numbers. That had the 4.3 with like a lot of miles on it.
Those trucks went good anyway. The S10s or the 4.3s, they always did good.
It was a good truck. But then Dan, he was excited to do it, so we did a YouTube video of doing the dyno tune at his shop with that 4.3, and the gains, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I almost think it was at least a third, pushing on almost doubling the horsepower out of it by just playing with his laptop, working his magic. It was unbelievable. I remember taking it for a ride after with him, and he drove, and he was giggling like a squirrel because it was. Sure, it wasn't an LS engine. It wasn't as big as the V8 stuff that he's dealing with, but it was just that 4.3 V6, and it was impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool truck. I kind of regret getting rid of that one, but.
Yeah, I've been over there. I used to hang out there like I was on payroll, but I wasn't. And but yeah, he had some wild stuff come through there.
Yeah, he did.
Still does.
Yep.
But yeah, Dan's a good dude. And Ben's killing it. So much
Yeah.
worth.
He just, matter of fact, it's probably from you. He's supposed to come by tonight or tomorrow to drop some bead locks to get powder coated.
Yep.
So I'm sure he would have had you do it otherwise, but
Yeah.
he had just reached out to me.
Yeah. And if you're interested in hearing Ben Connolly's story, he is on the podcast.
Is he?
Yeah.
With his business and stuff?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's episode 5 or 6,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'll check that one out.
Yeah, no, and Ben's hilarious.
He is funny.
Do you have him on Snapchat?
I don't.
Oh, you got it. It is amazing. If anybody could have made it real big on YouTube, and I'm surprised he still hasn't yet, because he's had quite a few videos on like TikTok and that kind of thing, like go
Viral.
very viral.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me on the podcast that he wanted to do a YouTube channel.
Did he?
And I was like, you really, especially when him and Dan first got together.
Yes,
If him and Dan had done one
early on.
early on, I feel like it would have been very successful.
I agree.
So you got a lot of stuff in here.
We do. Just cleaned up from the Bonnie Eagle car show yesterday after a show in the rain. Good turnout though, can't complain.
So it must be pretty wild for you, you know, growing up, going to Bonnie Eagle and all that, then all of a sudden, like, you're a vendor, you're there doing stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of surreal as far as that goes. Not the like, oh, look at you. No, not that at all.
No,
it's just
it's
the fact that, you know, I was been going to Bonnie Eagle and remember Show Shine and Drag
Yep.
up at Oxford. That was another awesome show. And when we were 15, 16 years old and bringing our vehicles there and everything, and now the show's, well, Bonnie Eagle's 44th car show. Like, it's still going on, still the same badass show. And now, you know, we have the business, Flippin' Customize, and we're, like you said, set up as a vendor. We got our metal art out there, we got some powder coat stuff, we got a bunch of merch out there, and shirts and hoodies and hats and the whole deal. And this we've done like a couple shows a year now for the past probably 3 years. We've been doing it as a vendor, kind of dabbling in some different shows to see how you do. And this show here, for the first time at Bonnie Eagle, we had sold, and you don't make much money, if anything at all, on shirts and hoodies and hats, at least unless you're buying hundreds of them.
right.
So small guys like us that are buying 20, 30 in a whack, you're not making money. It's not about that. It's more about the fact that somebody wants to come by and wear your brand and put it on and represent you, and that's advertisement, is so cool. And yesterday, well, Sunday at the show, we sold the most hoodies and shirts that we have at any show. So it was like a humbling moment. It was really cool.
Well, it's weird for me because, well, the powder coating thing, Bones powder coating, which is now just Bones sandblasting, I guess. I guess I got to make a new logo and everything now. I did a few different shirt orders, and guys at work were like, yeah, I want those. So, not that I sold anything at work, because you can't do that.
Sure.
It was all off-site, but the week and like the following week that those shirts came out, it looked like everyone in that place worked for me. At least down my end of the building.
Yeah.
Even the owner, not the owner, but Mike Papp, he was the general manager at the time.
Sure.
And he was like, what's going on with all these Bones powder coating t-shirts? I'm like, oh, they're all my employees. They're all just, you know, they're doing their part-time thing here.
Moonlighting,
Yeah. And he'd laugh or whatever. Then he always asked like how things are going, and he was just a really cool guy. I tried to get him on the podcast. He was going to, and then he got moved down to Asheville, North Carolina to run a plant down there.
Oh, wow.
So he still has a place up here in Maine, so
Someday.
still trying to get that to happen, but
There's another cool cat you should grab is, I think he'd do well in this. Maybe you've already talked to him. Is Keith over at Loud and Proud American. He has this brand, the shirt that I'm wearing right here.
I saw you had some posts with him at Bonnie Eagle.
At Bonnie Eagle. So he's a cool dude, small guy, Arundel, small business that started this Loud and Proud America and brand, and everything he does and sells is all made in America. And his brand and logo and his stuff, his designs is really cool. So we've been talking off and on social media for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And I finally got to meet him, and we pull in to set up the vendor booth, and we were right next to each other. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I'm into that. Origin's a big company for me. I order, like, I'm into jiu-jitsu, so like I have an Origin gi, plenty of t-shirts, just my belt is Origin, my wallet's Origin, and they are 100% made in America. Everything they do.
That's cool.
That's Jocko and all those guys.
Sure.
I got Rogan's got something to do with that. Cam Haynes, all those guys.
Wow. It's hard to find. And that's why like on my wall over there, I'll have business cards of other local shops and stuff. Even doing what stuff that I do. I work with my buddy TJ at Maine Off-Road Enterprise. Another cool dude. He's right here down in New York, Cape Netick area. And he's into the crazy hardcore wheeling, so
yeah,
big crazy off-road builds he does. Yeah, you got to promote and help your buddies. Like I said, there's enough work, and we all do things. We all do a little bit different things. I do a lot of his powder coating. Then you got Skidder Pig Weld Repair, Josh Perkins, another
Yep.
small fabricator. Same thing. I started doing a little bit of powder coating for him, and you promoting each other.
And yeah, he just never seems to remember who I am, which is fine. And even after I messaged him about doing the podcast, he was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm interested for sure, whatever. So I popped in there and I was standing there looking around, and he's like, yeah, can I help you with something? And I'm like, yeah, you can do a podcast with me. And he's like, oh, it's you. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And then we just, you know, it's back when like his daughter was Miss America, or
Sure.
going for Miss America and all that stuff. So he was just super busy. And then I still wasn't very established. I'm getting to the point now where like the downloads are starting to come. Some people are actually reaching out to me now,
Which is awesome.
which is
That's
pretty
great.
cool.
That is awesome.
But then you get some people, like I don't want to exclude anybody, but then some people message me and you ask them, well, you know, all right, well, what do you do for a living and what do you do? And you know, some of the stuff is like, it could be kind of interesting, but it's
Sure.
not really kind of what fits what I have going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel bad because you don't want to turn anybody away, but you also have to make something
It
that's
has to work with what you're
people
going after.
people gonna want to listen to it, you know.
Sure.
So that I'm starting to get into a little bit more of that, but I don't know. I'm gonna see because in a couple weeks, a friend of mine, Jenna, that I train with, she's a masseuse, but she does everything with her feet.
Oh my.
Yeah, different.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm like, I asked her, I'm like, would you want to, you know, be on the podcast? And she was like, yeah. Plus she trains jujitsu and all that. So,
Sure.
so yeah, we're gonna do that and see how that goes, I guess.
Get a free foot massage.
Yeah. So any big plans? Anything coming up that you could share with us today, or is there?
This summer is like trying to tread water. Keeping up with work. We focus hard, like I mentioned before, on the food truck build and helping Steve get. That's his dream, his passion, to be able to do this food truck full time, to get him off the ground, and we're right at the finish line to get him pushed over onto that finish line for him to do his thing now. That's done, like that, you know, boom, that build's done, and it'd be nice to be able to jump back on that 91 S10 some, like I know my dad, you know, he's been wanting me to, and I told him I was gonna, and then I ordered a bunch of parts for it at the beginning of the winter, and then got busy with powder coating and stuff that actually pays the bills, so that's what you do.
Right.
It's just, well, I could earn money or spend money.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I wish we could do, so I got some cool builds out there, the international rat rod out there that I have started dabbling in a couple times. My buddy was, I don't want to say, I was fortunate to get it. It was unfortunate that he had enough of it. It was going on, same thing with my S10 build. It was going on for years, and he reached out to me. He's like, this is a perfect build for you. And the old International Lodestar, and I'm like, oh, this is great. So it's all rat rod themed and rat rodded out. But at the same time, you know, which one do you work on? Which one do you balance? Or what do you, because it's nice to have all these builds, and it creates awesome content for YouTube. But all these builds don't, again, it's not bringing income in. They're cool builds.
Right.
Which, I mean, I can't keep them all either, so.
Yeah. Yeah. What's been the toughest one for you that you had to like let go?
I don't think I've let any of them go yet. I've got every one you have up there, I still have, and then some. So once the International Lodestar's done and on the road, something's gonna have to go. I've mentioned selling the square body shop truck, the 83, the one my logo's built around. And everybody's like, you can't, that's like the OG, that was the truck that you built your business around. And it's true, you know, that truck really made its mark on social media and stuff, and to get rid of that would kind of be a shame. So we mentioned kind of converting it over. My wife has a farm stand on her little, her business doing the farm stand and stuff. So we were like, well, maybe we'll turn it into more of like the farm truck for your business to use, to go get grain for the chickens and the ducks and all that stuff, so, and be able to still keep it around.
Yeah, I just remembered all that. You got a lot going on here as far as, farming and.
Yeah, we stay busy, digging ponds and yeah.
Yeah, your ducks live pretty lavishly.
Yeah, they're getting there, and the geese are in on it now as well, and all the chickens, and that's the wife's end of it. I help, when I can, but that's all her thing, and I actually like having the barn and all the animals really close to the business, and like in the backyard like that, so you just literally can see them, and I got chickens randomly wandering in the shop, and just hanging out occasionally. I got some pictures of chickens up over here, and they're just chilling in the shop, and they're funny critters.
You got names for them and everything?
They have some names. I couldn't even tell you what they are because I don't have any names for them.
That's my biggest, anytime I talk about getting animals, usually it's for the purpose of like raising them and then
Eating them.
eventually they'll be in my freezer.
Sure.
My wife says as soon as she names one of them, that's not happening.
Becomes a pet.
Yeah.
That's I'm afraid if we got a cow, that's what's going to happen, and I don't want a big eating machine cow. That's just a pet.
Yeah.
So we've steered clear of the cow. We've done the pigs and everything. We've done goats and.
We did pigs, but a friend of ours raised them.
Mm-hmm.
So she could do that because she wasn't.
They weren't in her face. They're not in the yard.
She met it when she was little, and she didn't know. She saw them after, but she didn't know which one was ours.
Right.
So she was able to do that.
Sure.
But it's like turkey hunting. She'll turkey hunt with me
Yeah.
because turkeys are ugly, so she could shoot those.
And they're everywhere.
And they're everywhere. But if I wanted to go deer hunting, she would not.
No.
No. She would be the one breaking sticks and yelling at the deer to run the other way. So.
There you go. That's wild.
So Flippin' Customized, obviously on YouTube. How else can somebody get a hold of you?
So, as far as social media goes,
Yeah.
we're on Instagram, Flippin' Customize on Instagram, very active on Instagram. I have a Facebook business page, Flippin' Customize. My personal page, I kind of tags it over, Scott Brew. All right, so there was probably some cutting in and out of the podcast, not on the actual podcast. So 207 Collective, you'll be able to hear the entire thing, and I'll post a link to it on all my platforms as well. But the YouTube video cut out because my faithful or unfaithful GoPro battery died, ran out of memory, and overheated. So isn't that wonderful? But anyway, we're wrapping it up here. I want to thank Justin for having me on his podcast. Still kind of new to me and learning that. And it was just cool to be able to sit down and have like a totally chill, unscripted conversation. Right. So I'm not trying to remember what happened here, there, and that. So it was
people all the time like, can you give me what you're gonna ask me ahead of time? And I'm like, no.
And I had no idea. Same thing. I'm driving home tonight. And I'm like stressed out, and I'm like I don't know where this is going. Like I got no. He could lead you down a rabbit hole or whatever. So no, it was awesome. I'm glad we talked, and I want to thank all of you for hanging out with us. So this is Scott, Flippin' Customize, Justin with
207 Collective.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good night.